we do this every day, eh? So we didn't just set this up for today, and we're this is kind of our. But Rivs you can tell Rivs was a big ticket guy, eh?
Yeah, those are nice frames.
What are you talking about, Pete?
Real
You
nice
got
frame.
Lemieux in the background there, bud.
Yeah. It's not hung up though. I got Gretzky over here too. He goes, I rotate him, hey Mike.
Rotate him through.
Yeah, Gretzky and Lemieux.
Yeah, keep him fresh.
Keep him fresh. I always wondered, what if Mario didn't look off Larry Murphy at the back door in Canada Cup '87? Hey,
but if he teed old Larry up, yeah.
Hey, just feed him back door. Mike Commodore joining the show. How you doing, man? How's everything? I told you who our guest is on Friday, eh? Well,
yeah,
supposedly.
Yeah. I would say if he says yes, he's coming on. That's a really good catch. I mean, I haven't kept up with Lou over the last decade and 15, actually probably since he traded my ass out of there, but he'd be like pretty hard to, I would assume Lou doesn't just go on shows.
Especially out of market shows. That's why I'm kind of pumped that he even said he would do it. And if he cancels, he cancels, but he allowed me to say he's coming on.
Yeah, you know what? I'd say if he said he's coming, I'd say he's coming. That's a really good catch because I would have, like I said, I can't see him saying yes to a whole lot of people. Like very, very few.
Wow.
So good for you guys.
Well, we appreciate that coming from you. So you were drafted by him. Did you fit into the Lou mold?
No. I mean, I did in some ways. I was drafted by him. He liked me. We got off to a pretty good start, but then just some of his rules. Going to New Jersey for me personally, there was a lot of good things there. I mean, I don't regret it or anything, but I mean, some of his rules and just the way he did something. And who am I? I mean, who am I now to question
what? What rules are we talking about? We talking about the facial stuff and
not so much that. Just more of the stuff the stuff that kind of bugged me a little bit was so for instance, my first year there, we went into they went to the finals and they lost to Colorado. So we got the Black Aces there, and the Black Aces, we weren't we had to be in and out of the arena an hour before any of the actual players showed up. And when I was in the minors, we're busting everywhere, and we had to wear suits everywhere. And we had track suits, but the coaches were horrified if we pulled into a truck stop in the middle of Pennsylvania to grab a stepped on pizza to eat. We had to
beef jerky and a corn dog.
Exactly. We had to take our track suits off, put our suits on to go in. It was just some stuff like that. I didn't really get.
Here's how that conversation went. That conversation went like this. If you're a veteran player on that team, hey, here's $20. Grab me a case.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, young kid, grab me a case of beer, grab me some beef jerky, and grab me some chips.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was far from a veteran at that point, so I had to go get off the bus. But like I said, overall, I really liked Lou. I respect him a ton. I mean, how can you not? I just thought maybe he was a little archaic in some of the stuff. But like I said, I'm not. Hey, Lou Lamoriello is a Hall of Fame general manager. I am the last person to question him. It's worked, so good for him.
You know guys in Toronto, right, that were there when he was there. So were they doing the facial hair stuff? I can't remember. I haven't looked, even paid attention to it. But do the Islanders have facial hair? Matt Murray has. Well, not Matt Murray. Matt Martin had short hair, I think, after Lou came in. I remember he always had the long locks.
I feel like some of those guys might have had some. Maybe a little bit. That's a really good question. I mean, maybe he's eased off some of the stuff now. For sure, he's just kind of, the game has changed. It's taken him a while, but maybe he's eased off. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, let's just say I don't think there would be anybody on any of Lou's teams even today rolling around how Brent Burns looks. That ain't happening. I mean, maybe you're allowed to have a 5 o'clock shadow and maybe a duster's okay as long as it's trimmed, but there's going to be nobody wandering around there with looking like a caveman. And to a point, I'm fine with that. Okay, I get that. It was just, I mean, he didn't let me have an afro, which I understood when I got called up the first time. He called me into his office. He's like, congratulations. I'm like, hey, thanks a lot, Mr. Lamoriello. He's like, the first thing you're going to do is go into a barber. You're not stepping on the ice. I go, where's the nearest barber? No problem. And I went and got my hair cut like this. And I mean,
he sent you down the next day. He just wanted
to. played 5 minutes, and then I was back to Albany.
Mike Commodore joining us here on the line. Longtime NHLer, very vocal on Twitter. What your Twitter handle exactly is at
Commie22.
At Commie22. So check him out. A lot of entertaining tweets. And, you talk about archaic and things like that and changing. We'll talk about that too, because I want to talk about Mike Babcock with you, because I think your wording is hilarious. You call him you say he's on the Rehab the Image tour. And,
yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was, can coaches really change? But before we get to that, how was your bout with COVID? And how did you feel? And do you think, like, after your bout with COVID, it would be easy to step back and play like some of these guys are doing, or was it not as bad for you?
Yeah, I think it's been from asking around. And so, long story short, I was in Arizona. I'm in Calgary now. I'm going back to Arizona tomorrow because Calgary, I don't know what it's like in Buffalo, but Calgary's like locked down, and I can get into the U.S. And so I'm just going to go down there and just kind of ride this thing out. Everything's kind of open there. But I was in Arizona for 2 months up until 2 weeks ago. And, I'm 41 years old. I don't have any respiratory problems. I wasn't hanging out with anybody older. So, to be honest, I wasn't horrified of the virus. I was like, if I get it, I get it. But at the same time, I wasn't like banging around bars. And I was basically going to the gym in the morning and playing golf. That's what I was doing. So 8 of us went and played golf on New Year's Eve day. And the next day I woke up, and I'll have to shorten it up. The first 2 days, I woke up sore throat, stuff in my lungs, sweating, chills. To be honest, it was, and I haven't been sick in quite a while as far as flus go. For me, I felt terrible for 2 days. For about 5 days, I didn't feel great. And then I tested negative. Then I was okay. But I would say for me, probably the toughest part, and to kind of answer your question, if I was still playing, I think that would have been a real struggle for me, because I found the fatigue. I'd say the fatigue kind of hung around with me for probably 3 weeks, and it's been a month now, and I still kind of I just have an irritating cough. But yeah, I would say for me, it was for some guys, I had a headache for a day, or I lost my sense of taste and smell for a couple days or a week or whatever, and that was about it. But for me, it was definitely real. I wasn't scared of getting it. The other 5 of the 8 of us got it. One of the guys caddies on tour, and he was happy he got it because it was right in his off period. So he got it done with, and now he doesn't have to test on tour for 4 months, because otherwise they test every time they show up to the course, basically, is what it is. But yeah, I would say it was real for me. If I was definitely sick, but at no point was I man, I got to go to the hospital. I'm I got the flu. But it would have been playing would have been, I don't know. I think a guy could be on the shelf for a while.
Well, that's what we're looking at.
You have 14 of them in New Jersey right now, so you figure, how is that going to? How are they going to deal with that as a hockey team moving forward? It's going to be really interesting to watch, to see how they come out of this. They do have a week off. The NHL shut them down for a week, postponed games, but it's like you said, how is it going to affect them after? So.
Yeah, you're sick for a while, you're not skating, and then some of them, I'm assuming some of those guys, it's probably not a big deal. Some of those guys, maybe some are going to be like me, and it's now you got to skate, you got to get back into shape, your fatigue level's high. Yeah, I don't.
Do you know any guys in the league that have had it? You don't have to name names, but I know you talk to a lot of guys in the league, and have they said how they felt on the other side of it, whether they came back to play or whether it was during the stoppage, where they might have said training when they came back was brutal?
Yeah. So the only guy that I'm sure the only guy that I know had it, and I was talking to him during it, was James Neal for the Oilers. So he was skating and stuff and working out in Nashville, and he got it in December. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but at the beginning of the season, it was it popped up on my phone. Wasn't a good look for him. There's nothing he could do, but it was James Neal unfit to play, and they just kind of left it at that. But basically what happened is he got COVID in Nashville. He was sick. He didn't have his sense of taste or smell. The fatigue was real for him, but then he had to quarantine for 14 days in Nashville. So this is now getting up to the end of December. Then he had to go to Edmonton because training camp was starting. So then he had to cross the border. Then he had to quarantine another 10 days in Edmonton. So by the time it was all said and done, he hadn't worked out. He hadn't skated. He hadn't done anything in almost a month other than just sitting around quarantine. So he said, I was talking to him kind of as he was trying to get back into it. And he I want to say he missed the first 5 or 6 games. I think he's played 3 or 4 games now. He was like, when he was coming back and skating, he's like, man, this is painful. He's like, I'm skating with the taxi squad. I can't skate with the whole team because I guess they have to separate the two. And he was like, man, I am struggling. It took him a while. Like I watched the game the other night. He looks good now. But yeah, it was no fun for him for sure.
Well, I remember there was something with St. Louis too when they returned to play back in August. A bunch of their guys had COVID. It had come out after the fact, and they were still kind of suffering from some of the effects afterward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's great that the NHL is going for sure. But I just God, I don't think it would be obviously you're playing hockey, it's fun, I get it. But this season, when these guys go on the road, they can't see anybody, they can't have anybody over. They're basically quarantined in their room and amongst the guys, which is okay in the hotel. But I just don't see if they can pull this off, as far as the season and keep it
and finishing it
and kind of in the time frame. Honestly, I think that would be a minor miracle because you know what I mean? You go home, let's say, for me, it wouldn't be a big deal, right? I live by myself and you come home. I'm not sure exactly what the rules are when you're at home, but I'm sure there's something where it's hey, you're hanging out with the people in your household and that's it. But it's if you have a wife and kids and, the kids are maybe in school and
yes. Wife's going to the grocery store because you can't do anything. You can't go to the store.
Wife going out for a cup of coffee with a couple friends. Now you're exposing, bigger exposures, right? So
if they pull it off even remotely close to the time frame, or if they pull it off at all, I guess in any fashion, I'd say that's a miracle or a minor miracle anyways. Because this stuff, if there one, there's all kinds of views on this and stuff as far as COVID goes, but it's definitely the flu, and it spreads. If there's one thing that I think is everybody can agree on is that it spreads like wildfire. So we'll see.
Well, it's interesting. These Mike Commodore on the line with us. He's at Commie22 on Twitter. Follow him. Great follow. Always entertaining. He's James Neal, the real deal. That's your guy.
The real deal.
You convinced him to go to Calgary, and then there was snow in August. I'll never forget that tweet when you're like, real deal. Don't worry. The weather in Calgary is not that bad. It was late August. It was before Labor Day, and there was 2
It was literally September 2nd. Just 2 feet of snow. Sent a picture from his porch. Oh, good weather, huh? Sorry. My bad.
Mike Commodore joining us here on the line. And I think it's interesting what you say about whether they can pull it off, because I was surprised, Mike, to be honest with you, that they were even able to get through the bubble. When I saw them get through that bubble without any cases, with the people that were going in and out with the workers and so on and so forth, I was shocked. And when the NFL was able to, we have the Super Bowl this weekend, but when the NFL is able to get to the Super Bowl and one more game, and they're able to get through their season successfully with only 1 game a week, but you are now moving. We saw what happened with baseball. Baseball had some outbreaks, but I'm with you. I'm fearful that maybe they don't get this done. They don't get this done. Anyone on your side thinking the same thing? Are there people out there you talk to that say there are some people inside our organizations that are wondering if we're even going to get this done?
Yeah, I think some people inside of Calgary, I think they feel like we do. Man, there's only so much you can control, and we're trying our best here for sure. And there's tons of rules in place and everything like that. But I think it's definitely a concern, and I think it's a very, very legit, valid concern too. It's like we just went over. Unless you're gonna, the bubble, like you said, I agree. Not only was I impressed they pulled it off, but I was also very impressed with how hard the guys played. Because I just kind of, I haven't been in an arena, obviously, and I'm not going to be, but I don't know, it just feels I know it's the playoffs, in the bubble, and you know what, and for the regular season here too, I'm impressed how hard these guys are playing, but especially in the playoffs, because I'm I understand these guys all know that the cameras are rolling and you're playing for the Stanley Cup, so yes, that should be enough, but at the same time, I'm man, not having fans there, and I don't know. To me, that's a huge deal. Going on, to me, it would be man, I kind of feel like I'm back in 2000.
Remember AHL exhibition
in Albany? Yeah. playing in Albany, where in the Pepsi Center, where there's 20,000 seats and there's 40 people there. Like even if you're, I'm like, oh, I'm going to play great tonight. You get out there, you're like, oh,
yeah.
God.
It was like Shea Weber last night playing his 1,000th game, and he was saluting the fans. Meanwhile, It was actually, I think his family was in the stands, but he was saluting the fans. Hey, thank you very much. I mean,
thank you very much.
I don't know how they do it.
Well, the fan noise. I don't know that the fan noise is a huge help, but I don't like the fan noise. I don't know how you guys.
They're pumping it into the arena.
Yeah, all over.
Yeah.
It's.
I don't know. It'd be interesting. I would. I mean, obviously, it's not going to happen, but I would like to, at some point, if I could. It's not going to happen, but I'd be interested just to go in and like watch a game, just to kind of get a feel of actually being in the arena. Like, I don't know. I think it'd be weird.
It would be a meaningful game going on in front of you and nobody there.
Yeah. Nobody there.
Without that artificial fan noise, it's silence.
Well, St. Louis had 1,400 fans last night, something like that. They were all right. They were capped at. They were allowed to have 1,400 at their game last night. Instigators, Mike Commodore joining us at Commie22 on Twitter. Can coaches really change? You've tweeted. You're very very hard. Not I don't want to say hard on, but you're very firm on your stance on Mike Babcock. And every time you come on, we talk about it. But last time you were on, he was fired. This time you're on. He's now an NBC analyst, and you say he's on the rehab, the image tour. He's done some articles. Can coaches change? Do you think this guy's going to change? Do you think there's anything different about him or other coaches that maybe philosophies do have to change and they actually can transition out of that style of coach to being what they need now, these players?
For me personally, obviously, I'm very jaded when it comes to Mike Babcock. I hate that guy's guts. I think he's a scumbag. My answer in regards to him, general answer is I think it depends on the individual. And like a couple of names that were brought up there when we were texting, like, for instance, like Peter Laviolette. And now I wasn't there when I loved Peter. Peter was great. And I didn't see any of this personally myself. But, I think before the 05-06 season, from what I'd heard, this is no personal experience, but Peter needed to have a little bit of a talking to because I think he was a little bit high on his horse, so to speak. And, with the veteran team that we had in Carolina, that wasn't really going to fly. And Peter adjusted. So there's a case of somebody adjusting. Peter also hadn't, had.
So who had those talks? Doug Waite, Mark Recchi, the guys that you guys brought in?
I think it was, to be honest, it was because when he got brought in right before the 04-05 lockout. And I think there was some kind of discussion kind of went on before the 05-06 season. So sometime in the lockout time there. And I think it was like Brett Hedican. I think
Glenn Wesley was there, I think.
Glenn Wesley. Yeah. Glenn Wesley was there too. So I think those guys kind of had a little bit of a chat with him. That's what I heard. I wasn't there, but, so he made adjustments, but I don't know. I think with a guy, like I said, I'll try to take my jadedness, if that's a word, out of it. I mean, Mike Babcock has done this forever. His arrogance, treating people poorly, treating everybody poorly. Basically, I mean, for lack of a better term, he's been a bully, is exactly what he is. I mean, he's done this. He's gotten away with it for 18 years or 17 years, whatever it is, in the NHL. He's had success. You can't argue. I mean, he won a cup in Detroit, and yes, he had a great team there. And I could kind of go off on how I think it could have been better, but that doesn't matter. I don't think he's going to change from what I can't listen to the guy, to be honest. I know he's on the Rehab My Image tour. I can't even watch him, let alone listen to him. It makes me sick to my stomach, but I have read the articles. I don't think it's been coming off very well. I mean, when he sits there and, I mean, if you really listen to what he says, according to the articles where I read, where he's like, oh, well, Johan Franzen basically said he was bullied. And Johan Franzen kind of went off on him a little bit and how he was horrified to go to the rink and all this stuff like that. And how he saw Babs just berating ushers and all this. And Mike Babcock's answer or response to that was like, well, it really stings when I hear my players say that. It's like, dude, you're not learning anything. It's like, you're just trying to make yourself into the victim. Like, it stings. Nobody cares if it stings you. First off, I know it doesn't sting you. You know exactly what's going on. And now you're trying to make it about yourself. And then when I hear him, he's still talking about himself. When I see in the articles, he's still talking about himself in the third person. I mean, as long as he's doing that, I don't even want to hear it about how this guy's changed. To me, it's just here's why he's doing it, in my opinion. And I get a lot of text messages about this. Whenever I'm like, man, I am tired of giving it to Babcock, I got to do something else. I'll get text messages from guys that are like, man, keep giving it to him. I'm like, all right, I'll keep fighting the the lonely. Oh yeah, I get more text messages about.
You were just about to say fighting the lonely fight. Were you not just about to say that?
Fight. Yeah, that's
Where's
exactly.
the other guys out there that have dealt with the same thing?
I know. You know, when Babs got canned, a few guys came out and said a few things, which was nice. Franz and Chelios, a little bit in Toronto. But I didn't really expect those guys in Toronto to say anything. It's a huge market. He had just got fired. I'm sure they got read the riot act. They just shut your mouth. And I kind of get that part of it. I don't know. I mean, to me, I think that a lot of them, I guess the easy answer would be a lot of them either have jobs in hockey or want jobs in hockey. And if, I knew it when I started giving it to them in whenever that was 6 years ago, when I was sitting at the bar in Raleigh. I mean, I was laughing as I was doing it, but I knew, like, I sat there and I went through my head. I'm like, hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to be sure that I'm not going to be looking for a job in hockey, because I'm literally burning a bunch of bridges here. Sure, the people that know me are going to be like, yeah, they know what's going on, but the majority of people in hockey don't know me. And they're going to be like, Jesus, what's wrong with this guy? I don't want any part of this guy. So I think a lot of it is a lot of people just want to stay out of it. They want a job in hockey, or they have.
You ever think that maybe you opened eyes?
I think maybe a few. Yeah. I think when he got canned, I would say, I mean, I took a lot of heat, obviously.
You were responsible. You're not guilty, but you're responsible.
I mean, I'd like to take a little bit of credit. I mean, not all of it, but I like to take a little bit. I like to think my work paid off a little bit. I mean, I would say when he got fired in Toronto and then that Mitch Marner stuff came out, I would say, at least for me, I think that was a little bit of vindication, so to speak, and where I think a few people at least like sat there and looked at it. The Leaf fans, majority of them were like kind of looked at it and were like, whoa, wait, maybe there is something here. So I don't know, a little bit. I mean, at the end of the day, I was basically doing it for the fellas.
Is it like therapy for you? Is it like therapy to be able to talk about this because how wrongly you were, treated by this person, and firsthand that there's been a lot more? Does this kind of feel like a little bit of therapy to get it off your chest so it's not stuck inside?
Yeah, I would say for sure a little bit of therapy. And then I would say the stuff that bothered me the most about it didn't have anything really to do with me, but like knowing how he is as a person, and not so much like treating me. It's not like I was around him forever, but the way he treated like anybody that he viewed as below him, like how he bullied them. And I would say that the thing that bothered me the most out of all of it would be, I know how he bullies people. I've heard tons of stories about when I wasn't around, bullying people and bullying the parking attendants and all this stuff. And then to sit here when he was in Toronto and he's a mental health advocate, like that just made me sick. I'm like, this guy, like, don't get me wrong. It's good to have the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs as a mental health advocate. That's great exposure. I understand that. But this guy is literally the definition of what mental health advocates like advocate against. And I got to sit here and listen to this guy talk about how he values mental health and he does this, and he doesn't do anything remotely positive for mental health. And I would say like that was the part of it that like his media persona and how he like, I mean, this guy never missed a camera, like never missed an interview, this guy ever. He loves the limelight. That's what he missed about not coaching, is he's not in the limelight. I mean, to sit and listen to him talk and just be like, man, how do people not see through this? And to have it kind of finally, when he got canned, some people saw a little bit of it anyways. I would say that was probably the most rewarding part for me.
Does he coach again, in your opinion?
Oh, man.
Doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to.
He was going to work for University of Vermont there.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what. There must have been some kind of angle there. Maybe he was hunting in Vermont, or I don't know. I don't know what that was at all. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I hope not. I'd like to say no. Like I said, like this guy's made his money. Like I want to see people be successful. I want to see people make money. Like he's made his money. Mike Babcock is going to be just fine. I don't think he deserves to be in the NHL. In my opinion, he should have got outed years ago. He's made his money. I'd like to say no, but I'm not confident on that. I don't know. I could see like somebody buying into his BS, maybe
I thought
Seattle
maybe like Seattle or something. But I heard Mike Greer's name's in the mix there in Seattle. He would be unbelievable. Players would kill for that guy.
Yep.
He would go out.
I've never met him. I heard he's awesome.
We both play with him. Riv and I both play with him.
I played with him on 2 teams. And the funny thing is, when I was with him in San Jose, you know, he's just not only was he a great player, and not only did he know his role, but I mean, he is just he's like the Godfather. He's like this guy that everybody, even the leaders in your dressing room, look up to Mike Greer. He had something about him that was captivating. And when I came to Buffalo after my first year, I remember sitting in the room. I was the last conversation with our GM after a tough year that year. And Darcy Regier asked me, he said, what do we need? What do we need? You've been around, played for many coaches, players, this, that, and the other. What do we need? And I said, we need leadership. We have some great hockey players here. They're young, but we need leadership. He said, who do you think? And I said, you got to go get Mike Greer. You got to go get Mike Greer. He's exactly what this team needs. And kudos to Darcy Regier. He did go and get Mike Greer, and I mean, he was
that's
a big
why
help for these young guys.
You need to put your name in the mix for Pittsburgh. I'm not even kidding. Like Kevin Weeks is going in. Chris Drury's the top candidate, but I'm telling you, I would put your name in. Mike, wouldn't you throw his name in the mix?
Well, listen, I mean, that's going to conflict with conflict with the Instigators.
Number 17 show in the country, midday market. I don't know if you know that, Mike, but I
didn't know that.
Yeah,
not a big
appreciate you following along. Did you hear about the Tony DeAngelo situation in New York? And I was wondering, have you ever seen anything or heard anything about this, or players fighting in a locker room? I've never seen such a good player just get tossed on waivers one day like he was.
Like when you texted me, I'm like, yeah, what is going? Because he had a really good year last year, and so I kind of looked into it a little bit.
53 points last year in 68 games.
Yeah, he was unreal.
Yep.
And then the next thing I heard about him was canceling Twitter. I'm like, well, okay. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You know what? On a lot of levels, I agree with that. I don't even want to get into that, but okay. That was the next thing I heard. And then I think he got scratched for a game. He had a bad game or something, I guess. And then, yeah, like you said, it's like, it was almost like snap your fingers, and now he's on waivers. And then I read up about it, and he was on the ice for an overtime goal and then got in a fight with the goalie, didn't he, in the tunnel?
Yeah, I made a comment, got in a fight. But the rumor is Chris Kreider came in and drilled him.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know if that's true, though, Petey. That's allegedly.
Let's pretend that it is.
That's allegedly. I read an article that who's the goaltender? Georgiev. That he smoked DeAngelo too. So
I don't know. I read Elliot Friedman's thing, kind of just looking at it, and maybe character issues. I don't know. It does seem like, I don't know. I mean, he seems like he's a very good player, and things have gone sideways for him in an awful hurry in New York. So, yeah, maybe
sounds
there
like
is
he'll be
something
done.
there.
His antics. Have you ever seen this though? Have you seen guys fight in the law? Have you ever been in a fight with a teammate?
Me personally, yeah, I was thinking about this morning. I know there's been some things that happened. No, never on the ice. I tried to fight Jason Blake in college, but that doesn't really count. That was on the ice, and the head coach didn't like that because he was our best player. I got into a little altercation at a Halloween party with Craig Adams the year after we won the Cup. Long story short, it was, and I like Craig, but Craig, I was hanging out with one of Craig's wife's girlfriends for a little while the year before. And then the next season, I actually had a girlfriend. It wasn't her. I had a girlfriend, But me and Craig Adams' wife's friends, we remained friends. We were very friendly, texting every once in a while, hey, what's going on, this and that. We had a Halloween party, which things can go sideways at those Halloween parties once in a while. I was excited. I'm like, okay, it's all the guys in town. It was fairly new, so the relationship was still pretty decent. So, I got in one before the party. I dressed up, and I got after it. So I showed up. I had a solid buzz on. And, get in there. I was having a good time. And then next thing I know, it's like girlfriend's pissed at me. I'm like, what's going on? And she's like, well, so-and-so said this to me. Who's this girl? I'm like, huh? And then somebody else said, another wife.
And you're not in a state to get caught off guard with that.
No, I am far from it. I'm just there to have a good time. So I'm like, what is going on? And then next thing I know, I kind of figure it out. I'm like, that Greg's wife had said something, and it was a misunderstanding, and anyways, but said it to my girlfriend. So I was in one, like I said, standing in the kitchen, and Craig's wife comes up and just starts giving it to me. And I wasn't even listening to what she's saying. I just remember thinking in my head, I'm like, Mike, what are you taking this for? And I'm like, yeah, what am I taking this for? So mid-sentence, I'm like, hey, Ann. And I said something I shouldn't have. Craig was right there. Craig, rightfully so, told me something. And I'm like, you know what, Craig? I'm like, and then I said something, and I went after him. And I ended up getting my toe stuck in a beer bottle, almost cut my toe off. Gas. And I'm losing it. I got Nick Wallin and Brett Hedican holding me back, and a forearm in my throat. And I was pissed off because I'm like, all I wanted to do was show up here and have a good time. That's it. And anyways, Craig and I didn't talk to each other for one full calendar year. Not one word. The only time we would talk to each other, we walked by each other, not one word, nothing. The only time we would ever exchange any words would be when we were in the D zone, and he was the winger, the right winger, and I was the right defenseman, and I'd either tell him he would tell me, I'm going high or I'm going to be low for a breakout, and those were the only words. And then
did you ever throw a little sauce in his skates? Just the old suicide pass, just to send a message and then give him a wink.
He was tough, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he was.
Yeah, I fought him in Carolina.
I should have just kind of hold on to it for that one extra second, just be like, oh, I'm going to pass it. Here you go, Craig. I don't think I did. I probably did, not because I was trying to, because I wasn't very good. But anyways, the next Halloween party, I was sitting there, and it was just me at this party. And I'm like, okay. So I yelled. They were sitting.
So the next year you come back solo.
Next year I come back solo. I'm like,
learn from your mistakes.
Not doing this again. Yeah. Exactly. I'm like, I was still dating the same girl barely, and I'm like, no, I'm going by myself. So I went to this party, and then we were sitting at the bar. Craig and his wife were on the other side, and I yelled at him. I'm like, hey, we had enough. And they nodded, and I went over there, and we're all good. I'm friends with Craig. I'm friends with his wife, but that would be the only one off the ice. I can remember one. Actually, it has a little bit to do with Buffalo. It was Kevin Adams got into it with Brett Hedican. So the year after we won was kind of a bit of a gong show. Actually, now that I think about it, we had started the year 0-5, bad start. Actually, one of the losses was in Buffalo, and we were getting bag skated. Peter was bagging us, and Kevin didn't like how Brett was working, and Brett was working, I thought, but whatever. I was just trying to get up and down the ice. That's it. I wasn't really paying attention. And Brett didn't like that very much. And I don't know if you guys know Brett Hedican, and I didn't really know this about him quite yet, but Brett I knew he's intense. He's very intense. And they just wrote an article about him, how kung fu, literally 3
Kevin's
days
intense
ago.
too. Kevin's intense too.
Oh yeah. Kevin is intense too.
Yeah.
Brett can handle himself pretty good. He did, he wasn't, he was a very good player, but so Brett took offense to that. They're both very intense. And anyways, they ended up getting into it on the ice, and Brett got the better of him a little bit. Because Brett can throw him pretty good for somebody who never fought on the ice, and he just snaps. And anyways, that was one that I remember, but not a ton. I don't know. Do you guys have a ton of fights on the ice in practice or anything?
Wow, Marty reminded me yesterday that I jumped Thomas Vanek one day and clawed. And Vanner, I can't believe I did. We had him on recently. I can't believe I didn't ask him, but
you did ask him. You did ask.
I don't know if I did. So here's what happened. So forget about what happened. So I hit the Zamboni guy in the head in the morning with a puck. Okay, so it was a tough morning. He
Not deliberately.
No, Pacer sauced one of my feet. I didn't realize the guy was putting the post in at the other end. I was all the way down so check swing, slap shot, sailed through. I'm like, really? It's going to hit the net. I went top corner.
175 feet in the air, hit a guy in the head.
So right in the head.
Right in the head.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Tough start to the day.
Tough start to the day. We were playing you guys in the playoffs. Game.
Okay.
So Vanner was a scratch that night, and we were on the Black Aces, and he hip checked me in a one-on-one drill. He was playing defense because we were low on bodies. And I went ass over tea kettle, and I got up. A tough morning to begin with. A lot of bag skates through the playoffs. As you know, I didn't play in the playoffs that year, so I'm on edge. And I get up and I grab Vanek, and instead of drilling him, I just started clawing at him. So like in the back room, Vanek comes out of the shower with his towel around his waist, and he was laughing about it. He was a really good sport about it. And he just had claw marks, like Wolverine got a hold of him down his face. And I was just like, I'm really sorry, Thomas. That was one of the worst things I've done. So anyway, let's end on that note. You were awesome today. That was awesome to have you on.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
We're way over break and appreciate your time, entertaining as hell, and hope to have you on soon and have fun in Arizona. Wear some sunscreen.
Thank you very much, fellas. Oh yeah, every day. As soon as I get as soon as I wake up, that SPF 50 is right on.
Look, like we all have our flaws we can poke fun at, but do you put the zinc on your nose?
An extra? You put the 50 or what's the highest?
That thing might pop out under the beak of a helmet or a hat.
I go straight 50. I haven't done the zinc yet, but I go straight 50. I go with the heavy duty stuff, and that is literally every day.
Don't do a Mark Zuckerberg. Don't do a Mark Zuckerberg. Have you seen that picture?
I won't do that. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I won't do that.
Anyway, hey, you're the man. Mike Commodore at Commie22, Instigators. He's been on before. He'll be on again. WGR Sports Radio 550 and MSG. A little bit more to come. Stick around.
Thanks, boys.